Hey there, and welcome to Boys Love Story, where we bring you touching BL school romances that will warm your heart and stir your emotions. Each episode on this channel is a unique journey of love. Whether it's sweet, slow burn, dramatic, or healing, our stories are crafted to make you feel seen and comforted. Today's story falls into the school BL genre and is all about young love, emotional growth, and moments that make your heart flutter. Title: We Met Under the First Rain of the Season. Genre: sweet, school life, light drama, happy ending. So grab your headphones, get cozy, and let your imagination drift into a world where boys fall in love, quietly, boldly, and beautifully. The sky had been threatening rain all afternoon. Dark clouds loomed over the school buildings, casting long shadows over the courtyard as students packed their bags and rushed to leave before the downpour began. But Haru wasn't in any particular hurry. He never was. He preferred the quiet corners of the school, the places where people forgot to look, like the old bench tucked beside the rear garden, or the third row of the library where the windows creaked and the sunlight barely reached. Today, he chose the deserted bus stop at the edge of the school grounds, just past the sports field. The perfect place to be alone with the sound of rain. Just as he sat down, the first drops began to fall, soft and rhythmic. Haru pulled his hood over his head and looked up at the sky with a small sigh. There was something comforting about the rain. It was predictable, cleansing. It gave him space to breathe. But this time, he wasn't alone. "Mind if I sit here?" A voice, clear, friendly, unfamiliar, startled him. Haru looked up to see a boy standing just outside the shelter of the bus stop, rain already soaking the sleeves of his uniform. He had short, slightly messy hair, and a relaxed smile that didn't quite fit with the gray sky above him. Haru hesitated. He didn't like sharing space, especially not with someone he didn't know. But saying no would be ruder than he could manage. "Sure," Haru mumbled, shifting slightly to the side. The boy sat down beside him, dropping his wet bag to the floor and running a hand through his damp hair. "Phew, that came down fast. I'm Riku, by the way. I just transferred here yesterday." Haru gave a small nod. He already knew who Riku was, the new student from Tokyo. Word traveled fast in small schools like theirs. Haru hadn't paid him much attention in class, but now that he was this close, it was hard not to notice how open and unguarded Riku seemed. "And you are?" Riku tilted his head playfully. "Haru," he replied, eyes still watching the rain. "Nice to meet you, Haru," Riku said with a warm grin. "So, do you always sit here during the rain, or is this a special occasion?" Haru didn't answer right away. No one had ever asked him things like that. Not with curiosity, but with kindness. "I just like the quiet," he said eventually. Riku nodded. "I get that. Rain makes everything feel softer, doesn't it?" Haru blinked, a little surprised. That's exactly how he felt. But he'd never heard someone else say it out loud. For a while, neither of them spoke. The rain picked up, drumming softly against the roof of the shelter. Haru listened to the rhythm, his heartbeat slowly matching the tempo. Riku didn't fidget or try to fill the silence. He simply sat there quietly, as though he belonged in the same stillness that Haru had always treasured. Then, without a word, Riku reached into his bag and pulled out a slightly worn paperback. He opened to the middle and began to read. Haru peeked over. It was a book of short stories, the same one Haru had borrowed from the library just last month. "You like short fiction?" Haru asked quietly. Riku looked up, surprised but pleased. "Yeah. They're like little windows into someone's heart. You can feel a lot in just a few pages." Haru's lips curled into the faintest smile. That was the moment it began, not loudly, not suddenly, but gently. Like the way the rain started, unnoticed, but impossible to ignore once it settled in. The bus arrived 15 minutes later. Riku stood up, shaking water from his sleeves. "Hey, Haru," he said, turning back. "You forgot your umbrella." Haru frowned. "I don't have one." Riku handed him his, a simple, navy blue foldable one with a broken strap. "Take mine. I'm going the other way, and I like walking in the rain. But consider it a welcome gift," Riku said, flashing a grin. "You can return it whenever." Before Haru could respond, Riku jogged off into the rain, arms slightly outstretched like he was embracing the storm. That night, Haru lay awake staring at the umbrella folded neatly on his desk. For the first time in a while, he found himself writing something new, not a story of sadness or shadows, but something softer. Something like the way his name sounded on someone else's lips. Something like the way rain made silence feel less lonely. The rain had become a regular visitor that week, like a soft backdrop to everything new that was unfolding. And strangely, for Haru, it wasn't unwelcome. Ever since that first afternoon at the bus stop, Riku kept showing up beside Haru during lunch, waving at him in the hallway, even saving him a seat in class. His presence wasn't overwhelming like most people's. He didn't talk too much or ask too many questions. He just existed next to Haru. And over time, Haru stopped flinching when their shoulders accidentally brushed. In literature class, their teacher announced a new project. Work in pairs. You'll analyze a theme in modern fiction, then present it creatively, be it through a short film, artwork, or original writing. As if on instinct, Riku turned toward Haru. "Team?" Haru hesitated, but nodded. "Okay." It was how everything began to shift. Their after-school meetings became regular. Sometimes in the library, other times in the quiet garden behind the art building. Riku was surprisingly thoughtful when discussing literature. He spoke about themes like isolation and identity, not from textbooks, but from experience. As if he understood the shadows that clung to people who felt out of place. One cloudy afternoon, as they sat cross-legged under a covered patio, Riku said casually, "You write, don't you?" Haru blinked. "What?" "I saw you scribbling in that leather notebook you always carry. And the way you talk about characters, you look like someone who lives in stories." Haru flushed. He wasn't used to being seen like that. "I sometimes write, but I don't usually show anyone." Riku tilted his head. "Show me?" There was no pressure in his tone. Just a simple, sincere interest. Haru hesitated. Then, slowly, he pulled out the notebook and flipped to a short piece titled, "Rain Between Us." He handed it over, hands trembling slightly. Riku read it in silence. When he finished, he closed the book gently, like it was something precious. "That was beautiful," he said, meeting Haru's eyes. "Like soft pain and quiet hope." Haru looked away. But he couldn't stop the warmth blooming in his chest. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. But not everyone liked the new bond forming between them. Nanami had always been at the center of things, popular, pretty, and sharp-tongued when she needed to be. She had admired Riku the moment he walked into class. His open smile, his cool vibe. His kindness, he stood out in ways she couldn't ignore. And now, that same Riku was spending all his time with a quiet, distant boy who barely talked to anyone. It made her blood boil. At first, she tried to laugh it off with her friends. But when Riku declined her offer to partner up for the project, and instead smiled gently and said, "I'm already working with Haru," something snapped. Within days, whispers began to float through the hallways. Did you hear? Haru got into trouble at his old school. I heard he had some kind of breakdown. That's why he transferred here. They say he's weird. Obsessed with dark stuff. The rumors were subtle at first, laced in half-truths and twisted fiction. Nanami didn't need to do much. Just a whisper here, a comment there. A well-placed question during lunch break. The class did the rest. By the end of the week, Haru noticed the shift. People stopped sitting near him. His locker had pencil scribbles. Creep etched faintly on the metal. In literature, when he raised his hand to speak, someone snickered. Even Riku noticed. Did something happen? He asked quietly one afternoon. Haru looked down. No, it's nothing. But Riku wasn't convinced. Haru, I'm not stupid. I know people are talking. It doesn't matter, Haru said flatly, standing up. This is just how things go. Riku stood too, blocking his path gently. It matters to me. That stopped Haru cold. No one's ever defended me before, Haru whispered. It's easier not to care. You care, Riku replied. That's why you write. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world was quiet except for the ever-present sound of rain in the distance. That night, Haru sat alone in his room, staring at his phone. A new message blinked on the screen from an unknown number. Watch your back. Don't drag others down with you. He turned off the phone and curled up in bed. But instead of crying, he thought about Riku's voice, steady, kind, defiant. It matters to me. For the first time, Haru wondered if he was allowed to hope. By the time the third week of rain had soaked through the city, Haru had begun avoiding Riku. Not because he wanted to, because he was scared. The rumors had become too loud to ignore. Haru could feel them clinging to him like wet clothes. Every whisper in the hallway, every glance during class, every fake smile from classmates who used to be neutral. And worse, he could feel Riku being pulled into it. That terrified him more than anything. Riku didn't deserve this mess. Haru had always known he was a burden. He carried a past that didn't sit well with others, a history marked by anxiety therapy, and one incident at his old school that had followed him like a shadow. He'd worked so hard to keep that part of himself buried. But now, because of one boy's kindness, it was all rising to the surface again. So he stopped replying to Riku's texts, stopped sitting near him, stopped waiting under the eaves after school. And every time it rained, he waited until Riku had gone before stepping out. It was like erasing a dream before it could become too real. Meanwhile, Riku was not one to sit quietly and let things unfold without answers. He noticed the silence immediately. The way Haru started walking faster in the halls. The way he kept his head down in class. The way he suddenly forgot their after-school meetings. Something was wrong. And Riku was going to find out what. It didn't take long. He overheard Nanami in the girls' bathroom, or at least just outside of it, as she laughed with two friends. They didn't notice him standing on the other side of the lockers. I told you it would work, Nanami said, smug. Riku hasn't even looked at Haru all week. Do you really think he stole the project outline? Who cares? Nanami replied. I printed a second copy and slipped it into Haru's locker. The teacher just has to believe it's plagiarism. Boom. Partner points invalid. Let's see if Riku still thinks he's so special after that. Riku froze. Then anger flooded through him, cold and sharp. He didn't wait. He marched straight to the literature classroom, slammed open the door where their teacher, Miss Saito, was prepping material, and said calmly, We need to talk. The next day, the entire class sat tensely as Miss Saito addressed them. I have received an anonymous claim that Haru plagiarized our project documents and attempted to cheat the grading system. Let me be absolutely clear. No official action will be taken unless we investigate fully. Haru looked up, eyes wide. Riku stood beside the teacher, face unreadable. I requested this meeting, Riku said. And I want everyone to know, if Haru is being accused, then I should be too. I worked on the same project. I shared every file with him. I take full responsibility. The class fell into stunned silence. Nanami's face turned pale. But that's... she started. Riku looked at her, eyes burning. Unless someone has proof, I suggest you stay quiet. MS. Saito raised her hand. That's enough. This matter will be discussed with the principal. Until then, no rumors, no gossip. You are all dismissed. Outside the classroom, Haru caught up with Riku in the hallway. You shouldn't have done that, he said softly, voice trembling. I had to, Riku replied. They were hurting you. But now they'll hurt you too. I don't care. You don't understand. Haru's voice cracked. This has happened before. At my old school. A girl accused me of stalking just because I didn't talk to her. People believed her because I was quiet. Different. My parents had to transfer me. I didn't want to go through it again. Riku's expression softened. And then Haru broke. Tears spilled down his cheeks, hot and sudden, as if every scar he had buried had split open. I didn't want to be saved, he whispered, because I didn't believe I deserved it. Riku stepped forward and pulled him into a quiet hug, right there in the middle of the hallway. You do deserve it, he said, firm and low. You deserve someone who sees you, who believes you, who stands beside you, even when the whole world doesn't. Haru clung to him like he was the only solid thing left in the storm. And maybe, just maybe, he was. That evening, Haru opened his notebook. He wrote a new story. It began with two boys under an umbrella. And it didn't end in silence. The rain didn't stop that week. Gray clouds settled in like old friends, soaking the streets, the windows, and the hearts of everyone still holding on to silent truths. For the first time since the rumors began, Haru didn't avoid Riku. He sat next to him in the library. Their textbooks untouched, the air quiet, but no longer uncomfortable. Riku didn't pressure him to talk. He just waited. Patient, calm, like the gentle drizzle tapping on the windows behind them. Haru stared down at his notebook. The same one where he scribbled half-finished poems and stories no one else had ever read. He held it between his hands, like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. I want to tell you something, he said finally, voice barely above a whisper. Riku looked up, giving him his full attention. Haru hesitated, fingers trembling slightly. There's a scar on my side. I never showed anyone. I got it at my old school. Not from an accident. Not something clumsy. It was from them. Riku didn't speak, letting him go on. They found out I wrote stories about two boys falling in love. Haru continued, lips pressing tightly. Someone went through my bag and copied pages from my journal. Printed them. Passed them around. He laughed, bitter and hollow. They said I was disgusting. That I was trying to turn other boys gay. One day, they cornered me behind the gym after school. Said it was just a warning dot. He took a breath. Shaky. Broken. One of them pushed me. There was a piece of broken metal near the fence. I hit it hard. No teachers saw. No one believed me when I told the truth. Riku's jaw tightened. I stopped writing after that. Haru added. I stopped speaking to anyone. My parents thought I was depressed. They didn't know it was because I was terrified. I begged them to transfer me. And when I came here, I told myself I wouldn't let anyone know me again. The rain outside grew heavier, like the clouds themselves were mourning for him. And still, Riku said nothing. Instead, he reached out and took Haru's hand gently, like it was something precious. Like Haru himself was something worth holding on to. "You don't have to live hiding anymore," Riku said, his voice steady and warm. "Not around me." Haru blinked, stunned. "You're not disgusting." Riku continued. "You're brave. And smart. And kind. And none of what happened was your fault. But everyone believed them." "I won't." Those two words, simple, but heavy with meaning, wrapped around Haru like a blanket. He didn't cry this time. Instead, he smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. The next day, something subtle changed at school. They walked into class together, sat next to each other, didn't bother hiding the way they leaned in when speaking, or how their laughter was just a little louder when shared. Some classmates still whispered, but others noticed the quiet confidence in Haru's eyes. The way Riku looked at him, not with pity, but with admiration. One brave student, a girl from the art club, even approached Haru in the hallway. "I liked your short story," she said shyly. "The one about the boy who hid his heart in the rain. It made me cry a little." Haru blinked. "You read that?" She nodded. Riku showed it to the teacher. She shared it during writing club. Haru turned to Riku, eyes wide. Riku simply shrugged. "You said you stopped writing because no one believed in your stories. I thought maybe someone should." That afternoon, during lunch, they sat in the library again. Same table. Same soft light. The librarian, usually strict, left a thermos of hot tea nearby without saying a word. "This place feels safe," Haru murmured. Riku smiled. "Then we'll make it our spot. Every time it rains." Outside, the world remained drenched and gray. But between them, something warm had started to grow. The school grounds buzzed with life as the end-of-year festival began. Despite the gentle drizzle that clung to the afternoon air like a memory that refused to fade, students hurried between booths with umbrellas in hand, laughter mingling with the sound of raindrops. Lanterns swung lazily in the breeze, and the faint scent of roasted sweet potatoes drifted through the air. For the first time in a long time, Haru didn't feel like a background character in his own story. He stood backstage in the school auditorium, heart racing, holding tightly to a single sheet of paper. A short story he had written just for this event. His fingers trembled, not from fear, but from something much deeper, the weight of being seen. Riku was by his side. "You sure you're ready?" he asked, his voice a calm anchor. "No," Haru admitted, "but I want to do this anyway." Riku grinned. "That's what makes it brave." The curtain lifted. A gentle spotlight lit the podium at center stage, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. The murmurs from the student audience faded into silence as Haru stepped forward. Paper clutched at his hands like a lifeline. He took a breath, then began to read. "There once was a boy who hated the rain. It reminded him of loneliness, of gray skies and empty spaces between people. But one day, in the middle of the first spring storm, he met someone who didn't mind getting wet. Someone who offered him shelter. Not just under an umbrella, but under a heart that didn't judge him for who he was." The words poured out, steady and strong. And though the rain kept falling, it felt a little warmer when they walked together. One step, one conversation, one shared silence at a time, until the boy realized maybe he didn't hate the rain after all. As he read the final line, the auditorium was silent. Then, quiet applause began to ripple through the room, soft, respectful, and slowly growing louder. A standing ovation wasn't expected. But Haru didn't need one. He had already won something more important, his voice. Just as he stepped down from the stage, someone began to walk up the steps. It was Riku, holding something familiar. A slightly worn, navy blue umbrella with a fraying edge. The same umbrella he had lent Haru during the first rainstorm of the semester. The audience watched, confused and curious. As Riku approached Haru, smiled, and offered him the umbrella. "I've been waiting for you to return this," he whispered, just loud enough for Haru to hear. Haru blinked, stunned. Then a soft, warm smile spread across his face. He didn't take the umbrella. Instead, he leaned in and replied, "How about we don't need it anymore?" Riku laughed quietly, folded the umbrella, and tossed it gently aside. Together, they walked off the stage, side by side, as the sound of rain against the windows turned from somber to soothing. Later that evening, as the festival wound down and the school lit up with golden lanterns, the two of them stood just outside the gym. The drizzle had returned, not heavy, but steady. But this time, neither of them brought an umbrella. And for the first time, Haru didn't flinch at the rain. He tilted his head up, let it kiss his cheeks, and smiled. "I never thought I'd be thankful for a rainy day," he murmured. Riku chuckled, bumping his shoulder gently. "Sometimes, the sky needs to cry a little so the world can grow." They stood there for a moment, no more words needed. Two boys, one story, and a new beginning, washed clean by rain. Thank you so much for spending time with Boys Love Story today. We hope this episode touched your heart, made you smile, or even gave you a moment to escape into something beautiful. If you enjoyed the story, we'd love for you to support us by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with other BL lovers out there. Your support means the world and helps us create more stories filled with love, hope, and healing. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and stay in love.